Hello and welcome back to Disneyland. I've been working on the build for Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, and today I'm going to build the interior of Toad Hall. Here are some photographs of this location from Disneyland in California. When visitors enter through the front door, they immediately turn left to enter the boarding queue. Directly across from the door are a bookcase on the left behind the ride operator and some paintings. As visitors enter and turn left, they pass by the front window, where they find a statue of Mr. Toad. I have always loved this statue, and fortunately we have a statue similar to this in Disney Infinity in the interior toys, and so we're going to make use of that. To the right, visitors can see the boarding area and the doors where the ride will take them. There's a stained glass window on the left in this picture. And notice the sconces along the wall and the statues of Mr. Toad everywhere. He's got a bit of an ego. And you can also see the fireplace. And here's another shot of the fireplace. You can see the ride operator on the right. The cars, once they are loaded, make a 90-degree turn right and go through the doors that are on the left of the fireplace. And here's a little clearer shot of this same area, which is also a little brighter. And if you look up in this shot, you can see there are banners hanging from the arched rafters. Now, the paintings that you see when you enter are these. Notice the wall is carved wood, and unfortunately we can't do anything like this in the exterior toy box that would do this justice, but I'll talk more about that when we get into the build. The largest painting is this one, and it depicts scenes of Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, many of which were not in the original movie. On the left, you see the motor car going through the countryside, leaving a trail of bodies in his wake. I love that one that's hanging over the edge of the bridge. At the top of the painting, you see him driving through the city streets at nighttime, and this painting formed the basis for the areas I chose to incorporate in my racetrack, namely the city streets and some farms in the countryside. There's also a portrait of Mr. Toad on this wall, which you can see in the middle of this photo, and fortunately we have this exact painting in the interior toys, so we're going to make use of that too. And here's what the room looks like as you come out of the ride. Again, notice the sconces along the wall on the right between the paintings. The entrance to the building is up ahead on the left. That's where we came in. So that's the actual ride at Disneyland. And for my toy box design, let me come into Spark mode here, I chose to make a few changes to the layout of the room, mainly because the racetrack can't do a 90-degree right turn. We have this piece of racetrack here, which is actually pretty large. And if we tried to fit interior toys around this, the scale of the room would be much too huge for the toys that we're using. And so I chose to keep this thing small, and I changed it a bit. The track still runs through the room, just like it did in the original ride, with the paintings across from the front door along this wall. And the front door will be over on this side of the room. And so that's going to be the same, but I chose, because we're not going to have the fireplace and stuff over here, I chose to move those things over here and change the layout of the room so that it makes a bit more sense for the toy box layout. And so that's my plan for the build here. And so let's start with these blocks. I'm going to frame in the room first. And once again, the style that we're going to use for the blocks is going to be the brick, the Nicelander's home. And I'm choosing to use this again because I cannot use the wood theme that's in the basic building blocks. The blocks just aren't detailed enough to really do it justice. And I tried using all kinds of flat panels and decorative edging. So I tried using these pieces and this trim piece I just really tried to make something that looked decent. I even used paths to try to offset blocks and things, and it just did not work. There was no way I could really do this justice. And so what I chose to do instead was just keep the build simple. We're just going to use basic terrain blocks and try to save memory. So we're going to put 4 of these down along here total, like that. And it's not going to be the... this is going to be the final place for these blocks. I'm going to have to move them in a bit to make room for the interior toys, but I wanted you to be able to see the layout of the room first. And then we're going to fill in some blocks around the entrance to the room over here. So we're going to start with this block, put down this one and another one of these. Okay. And then we'll put one of those in here, followed by that and followed by that. Because in the ride I want this to look like they're crashing through the building. And go ahead and remove this little temporary block from last time. Alright, so then let's pick this piece up again and put it back. This is going to sit right over here like that. Put this one in here like this. And now at this point, let's go up to Building Sets Group 3 to the Main Street USA buildings. We're going to use this station piece for the door leading outside. This kind of matches what we have in the toy box as far as the entrance to this building goes. So I think that's good to represent that here. And it's not quite tall enough, so we're going to drop one of these blocks right there like that. And then we'll continue to frame in the room here. That block will sit there like that. And then we're going to run 3 of these down this way. And another one here. Line it up with the left edge like that. And then move it out 2 nudges to the left. And if you do that right, that's the equivalent of having this little block in here. We'll drop another one of these here like that. And you're not going to see why I'm doing this, but I'll show you this next time. We're going to put those 2 blocks in there like that to close a gap that's going to be there after we put the city in. Alright, and then for this wall, we're going to use this piece and we're going to raise it up 1 nudge. Put 3 of those in. The 4th one will sit down on the ground. This one technically could, but sometimes the cars take this turn a little bit short, and players too. So we're going to leave that one up in the air. Alright, so that frames in the shape of the room. And I like that. Okay, let's put the vaulted ceiling blocks in, and this is going to give us some representation of the wood. And the original ride, the room, excuse me, had a vaulted ceiling, so that's going to be good. So we'll go back up to the blocks drawer, and for this we're going to use the long support arch. And let me find my screen grab here to make sure I put this in the right spot. Okay. So the first one we're going to put right over here up against the wall like that. And let's go ahead and style it. We're going to use the Wood 1 theme. I'll set that to be my theme. The next one will sit over here like that. Can't sit here because it's going to intersect with the racetrack. And the last one will sit right here in the middle of this block. And then we're going to go directly across. Do the same thing over here. Just make sure we're directly across from those others. And then, ideally, I'd love to use 2 of these pieces, but don't have room for that. So we're going to put these in here like that. And I'm actually going to move these over just a nudge temporarily. And this one we can go ahead and put in place. I'm going to leave room for the banners. I forgot to put those banners in my previous build. I had intended to, but I didn't. And so as I was preparing for this build, I realized I'd forgotten those. So we're going to put those in this time. All right, eventually these things are going to move over to the right and be lined up like this one. But in order to prevent collisions with the interior toys, we have to move those over. All right, so that takes care of the arched ceiling, and it leaves the ceiling open, which allows some light to get in here, which is going to be desperately needed. All right, next we'll move the start pad, and we want it to seem like the player came in through this door here. And so this is going to sit just like we see there. So the player will come in facing the racetrack. You get the idea. I was trying to show you the viewpoint of the player. All right. And then last thing I want is we need to cover up this ugly edge over here. So we'll go back up to Building Sets Group 3. And for that, we're going to use this red shed roof. We're going to put 2 of these in like that. And actually, I think we'll move this over just a little bit more, because we're right up on the edge of that mountain on the left there. And that covers up that ugly gap. So that's good. All right, and that is it primarily for the exterior toys, except for the roof, the ceiling. We'll put that on at the end. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is put in the toy box door, because we're going to need to get to the interior toys. And we find that under gameplay toys. And I did not really want to cover up this door, so I chose to put the exit over here. Like that. Okay. And we're going to change the configuration of the door. Oh, not the style. Open the logic menu and go into the properties. For the destination, we're going to link to an existing toy box. We're going to go to the Haunted Mansion. That's our interior toy box. And this is just a temporary change here. The rest of those properties can stay the same. Okay. And then the last thing we need to do is get these blocks out of the way so they don't intersect with the interior toys. Because you've probably seen that before. The bounding boxes on those things are a little bit off. So we're going to move these blocks back a little bit. This one will raise up. That one will raise up. This one we can just slide back a little bit. Couldn't really do that with this one because of that piece. I don't know that I'm putting anything under here, but slide that back anyway. Okay, so all of those walls are out of the way now. And we also need to move the floor. So we're going to pick this piece up and drop it down, just so we don't collide with the windows or the fireplace. Okay? And of course, that means we're going to run into a problem with this door. So let me just throw down a temporary block underneath that. Like that. Okay. And now that it looks like I've made a complete mess of the toy box, we're actually ready to go for the interior toys. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to save my toy box, and then I'm going to go through that door, and I'll meet you in there in just a moment. And here we are in the interior. Now, we already have everything that we need set up back in episode 5 to bring out the interior toys. So if you need to know how to do that, go back and watch that episode. All we need to do for this episode is change the destination on that door. And so we're going to come over here and do that. So we'll open up the properties. The destination, we're going to link to an existing toy box. We're going back to Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. And the rest of those properties are going to be fine. Okay? Alright, and then we need to find the interior toys. And so we're going to start with tables and cabinets, because the bookcases we need are just to the left. So I'm going to go ahead and exit out of the editor. We're going to come over to our button. Which one did I have hooked up? Let's grab the magic wand. That's the one that was hooked up. Okay. And we'll go ahead and remove the wand. Okay, so this is the button we're going to need to push. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push this button and then open up the editor to get back into the interior toys before the timer over here that we had set up goes off. And then I'll fast forward and meet you back in the toy box for Mr. Toad's Wild Ride in just a few moments. And here we are back in Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. And now if we open the editor, here are the interior toys. Okay, so let me grab my screenshots here so I know what I'm dealing with. And I think since we're right here, let's start with the bookcases. So if you go left, you find those pretty quickly. And we want them lined up with this level, so that's good. And we want them lined up with along this wall. And you'll notice they're going to have to sit out away from the wall a little bit. Okay? So we're going to put one right here in this corner. And again, I can't go this way because this wall really isn't. That wall straight ahead is actually going to sit out a little bit. So this bookcase needs to sit right here. We'll put another one next to that. Pretend there's another one here. We're going to put the next one over here, so leave a gap for the clock. Okay? And then we're going to grab the smaller bookcase. That's going to sit underneath that beam. And again, I'd like it to sit right on this, right on that wall, which looks like it can. But right underneath that beam. Okay, so just like that. And there are the bookcases. So we have those. And I've got a list of things here. Let me just check these off as we go. Okay, so that's it for that drawer. We scroll down, we come to the accent and decor drawer. And there's several things that we're going to want underneath here. So if we go left, and you scroll for just a little bit, first thing you're going to come across is Mr. Toad's statue. And that is iconic for this toy box. And it looks like we have no problems with it sitting on the floor. But we're going to put it, I want it to be right in view of the player as they come into the toy box. All right, so we're going to put this out here a little bit in front of the player, about like so. And let me just double check my screen grab here. Make sure I try to get this in about the same position as I had it before. And I think that's actually pretty close. Here was where I had it. Alright, so again, look at the floor texture. We're lined up directly across from there. Again, don't put him down here on this floor. He needs to be up here. I'll try to spin it around to give you a good look. Alright, now the Frog Thor statue is right over here, and I thought that would be just kind of funny to have that here. So we're going to put that about like so. We'll put it like this. The exact placement doesn't matter. You can always move it again a little bit later, but don't go beyond the door there. Alright, so we got both statues. Check those off. The last thing we need under here is the grandfather clock. So if we continue scrolling left, we should come to that pretty quickly. It's the kooky grandfather clock. That's going to sit right in here between the bookcases. Again, I can't go too far back, so it's going to sit out like this. Alright, so there's the clock. If we scroll down, we come to the windows, and there's two things that we need here. The first is King Stefan's castle fireplace. And this is why we moved the floor down, so that we can put this in here. But this needs to sit right back here like this. And if we slide this over, you can see it would sit right up against that red block back there. We're going to slide it directly to the right, and we're going to put it right about here, I think. Hang on a second. Yeah. Don't go too far this way, because then it's going to stick out. So right there like that. The other piece we need from this drawer, if we go back to the right, we come to Rapunzel's tower window. Excuse me. And this is the closest thing we have that matches the windows that are in Toad Hall. So again, I'm lining it up with this piece over here. We're going to place one here and one about the equivalent distance over here off to the side. So that this piece here is centered between the windows. Alright, so that takes care of the fireplace and the windows. If we go down to the next drawer, where we have rugs, we don't need anything there. Electronics and appliances. Scroll to the right and we come to the sconces. We're going to use Beast's Ballroom Sconce. And the first sconce is going to sit up at this level, spin that around. It's going to be directly across from the door. All right? And it's going to sit out here like this, halfway between the racetrack and the brick. Remember, we slid the brick back, and we did that because we didn't want to run into that problem. So the first sconce goes there. Second sconce, or set of sconces, is going to go over here around the door. So keep this at about the same level. Line it up with the back edge of the door. We're going to put one on either side of the door, like that. The next one will sit in here on the side of the window. So just like that. And then we're going to bring this over and we're going to put one on either side of the bookcase. like that. Okay, and that's it for the sconces. That's everything we need out of that drawer. If we scroll down, the next one we come to are seating and beds. If you go to the right, we have the rabbit hole green ottoman. So this is the ottoman we're going to use over here. And let's see, we're going to place this, if I can get this in view here. About like that, actually, right under those windows, directly out from the fireplace. Scroll right a little bit further, and you'll come to the Small World chair. This is what we're going to use for that. So the first one will sit there. The next one will sit over here like that. Not too far in, that's too far in. So this has to sit here like this. And again, you're up at the level with the other furniture. That takes care of the chairs and the ottoman. Scroll down a little further and you come to wall hangings. And for wall hangings, if we go left, we have to scroll a little ways. First thing we're going to come to are the banners. These are the things I forgot last time. So we have all of these really nice banners here. Nothing exactly matches what we had in Toad Hall in those screenshots, but it's close enough. So we want to orient this like this, and we're going to hang these from the rafters. We move the rafters again because we didn't want to run into that problem. Okay, so we're going to place some rafters here, and we can't go over too far because we run into the racetrack piece, but we can center one over here. And for this, let's put this red violet castle banner here. And then on this banner, we'll put one over here like this. Another one over here like this. And I think that adds some nice banners there. There's really no point in putting one over here because the player, as they come through this door, is never going to see that. So I think that's probably good enough. And those 3 banners are sufficient. There weren't a lot of banners hanging from the ceiling in the real Toad Hall, so I think that's fine. If you don't like those banners, you can pick some other ones. But from there, we keep scrolling left, and the last piece we need is Mr. Toad's portrait, which is that piece right there. We're going to place several of these around the room. First one's going to sit right here above the bookcase. And the other 2 are on the opposite wall. So we'll place the first one over here, about like that. And the other one's going to be the same distance from that candelabra, excuse me, which puts it right here. Alright, so that takes care of the banners and the paintings. And at that point, we are done with the interior toys. So, let's put all of the blocks back where they belong. So we'll drop this back down in place. You can see we can move these things and we don't have a collision problem. We didn't need to move this one after all. Push that one back into place. This one will push back into place. That one will drop back into place. We can delete this temporary floor piece and bring the floor back up. And then we'll put these blocks back where they belong. And I think you're going to see in just a moment, now that we put all of these blocks back, the room has really come together. And there we go. Let's come out of the editor for a moment and admire our handiwork. So there we have the wall sconce and paintings, the banners hanging from those rafters, which looks really cool. We've got our cozy little fireplace and the bookcase and clock, the windows. And I like the reflection it puts on the floor. That's really cool. And so, yeah, this looks really, really good. All right, a few finishing touches and then we'll be done. So let's put the ceiling blocks on next. So if we come back down to the terrain drawer, we're going to line this up, and I'm going to move it over a couple of nudges like that so that I can fit these around on the sides. A couple of large blocks here. Some more of these in here. And there we go. We have our ceiling for the tunnel there leading out. And because it's kind of dark in there, I thought having some lighting would be kind of nice. And fortunately, under the Creativitoys, if you go to the right, you have these area lights. So we're going to drop that down to the level of the ceiling. We're going to put the first one directly under this block. So lines up with the bounding box of that block. We're going to do the same with the next 3 blocks. We'll put another one out here. Now we need to kind of go around the turn. And this one's a little trickier, but I want to try to put this in about the middle of the road, if I can. So that looks pretty good, I think. And that's about as much as we can do, because now we're going to run into these blocks. So if we come out of the editor, we now have our lighting for the tunnel, which goes around that corner. And that looks pretty decent. I like the way this turned out. But there we are. The interior of Toad Hall is done. Next time I'll show you how to build the city portion of the toy box. Before you go, please hit the like button and leave a comment to let me know what you think of my design for the interior of Toad Hall. You can also subscribe to my channel by clicking my photo in the lower right corner of this video. Thank you for watching. Take care.